Hey, welcome on board to another episode of Random Comics from my spinner rack. My name is Drew Geraci. I've been in the comics industry for 30 years. I've written a few novels. I do commissions. I do conventions. But I really love, most of all, is talking about comics. So let's get down to it. A lot of these are from my youth. The mid-70s is where I really got the bug big. And thank God I got a job in the comics industry because I almost flunked out of school because I didn't do any homework, wasn't interested. Comics are the only thing that stirred something of interest in me. But I even when I got bad grades, like the first semester, actually where I was, they didn't have semesters. They didn't have like 4 quarters. They had like 6 grade periods. So the first 2, I would get like D's and F's, which is terrible. And then at the time, what happened was my mom, she would take all my comics from me until I improved my grades. And that was the same for my cousin Sean, who, same situation. So it sort of incentivized us to improve our grades. And the thing is, I could probably gotten A's and B's. I just didn't apply myself. I wanted to do comic books. Everything else was just a distraction. And anyway, in fact, 9th grade, I had a tutor through the summer, and it was I can't remember what it was. Anyway, comics were held hostage. Now here's the thing: my school bus would come pick us up around, I don't know, 7:30 or so. I would get up a half hour earlier. I'd go up to the drugstore, come back, hide the comic I just bought, and read it later. But then again, the whole day was spent in school, me daydreaming about that comic. So, but I graduated. I just never applied myself. So thank goodness all my geekitude had served me well. Stalker. I first came across this. My cousin had this book, and it was really intriguing. I love that cover for one thing. The image is cool. This came out at a time when The Warlord by Mike Grell came out. A whole bunch of other pseudo sci-fi fantasy comics came out, and most of them didn't last long. Except The Warlord lasted like 15 years, I think. Stalker, okay, there you go, and you get right into it with Paul Levitz as the writer. He was the new guy in town. He did a couple issues of Teen Titans when they got revived in 75 or 76. Steve Ditko and Wally Wood, the artists. Steve on pencils, Wally on inks. That's what blew me away. I was a huge Wally Wood fan, and I only would come across him once in a while, like on it was a reprint of an early issue of Daredevil. Also, these two together, they did a lot of books for a while. They did some Atlas Comics, which was a short-lived knockoff of Marvel Comics in 75. They did a 4-issue story comic called The Destructor, and they did some other stuff too, but Wally Wood was really more into inking than anything at the time, which actually kind of was fine by me, because Wood was getting a little stiff and reusing a lot of the poses at that time. And so I don't know who did the color, but I'm wondering if that's a Wally Wood touch-up. But apparently, Ditko loved having Wood on the inks, and Ditko was kind of finicky about who would ink him. Really neat stuff. I love the colors too. They're restrained. They are what your eye always follows. What it's supposed to. I loved this villain. Oh, is he creepy looking? A little bit. He's got sort of that pseudo Doctor Doom, Iron Man kind of helmet thing, and that's really got me. I mean, a lot of times the villains have to be as engaging. Look at the lines as it fades. Ooh, Joe Kubert art. Pom-poms, I remember those. They were kind of like milk duds, to my recollection. Beautiful image. Ugh, these two. Here's Warlord, Hercules Unbound. How about the fades on that and the whiteout? And look at the mist that Wood used whiteout for, where he just kind of. I love doing that stuff myself, but ain't no job for inkers these days. It's terrible. Has to be putting my happy voice on. That guy's so cool. Lovely. Let me just keep this in decent shape. We just have the usual spinner rack kink in it. Now, boy, oh boy, I was so unfair to Jack Kirby when it came to his Pacific Comics work. I mentioned in the last episode Silver Star, which had been it had been recent, I don't know, like 10 years ago. Tomorrow's Publishing redid all 6 issues of Silver Star, the pencil scans to it in a trade paperback, which is out of this world. And also Captain Victory, it was just so out of step with everything else. But you know what? But I've said this before, it doesn't really date him, because you'll see stuff where there's bell bottoms and, very, hip at the moment sort of stories. And, no. What I love about this is he doesn't, real quick, Pacific Comics invited us to watch The Rocketeer by Dave Stevens. How about that? So beautiful. Missing Man, another Ditko character with really wild imagery. So, Victory is Sacrifice, and really, really intense stuff going on there. I'm trying to find page 2 and 3. Did I get page 2 and 3 yet? No, there we go. Basically, these really weird monsters come up from the sewers, and look at all that in the background. And the people and proportions are totally screwball, and also a lot of people still wore fedoras and other stuff like they did in the old days. But that aside, this imagery is so eerie; it just gets under your fingernails. It's creepy. So The Works by Jack Kirby, inks Mike Thibodeau, who I really like his stuff, and people don't talk about his stuff. But he did most of the PC comics of Jack Kirby. Steve Oliff, he was a groundbreaking colorist for American mainstream comics, and there is so much destruction. It's so. You could say it's ugly and indulgent and such. To an extent it is, but Jack Kirby, he was an infantryman. He saw war, he saw things up close, and this was sort of his not unbridled, I hate saying that. It was like unrestrained commentary on war. I like this guy, Mac Thibodeau, better than Royer. That is incredible right there. And what's weird is this is one of those rare issues where there is that much action, because Kirby at this point liked to have talking a lot. Just sort of talking in circles. His dialogue is so weird. And at first I hate it, but when I look back on it, it's very beatnik kind of sound. That's incredible. Here's an example of that. My machine was designed to look humanoid. Its occupant may look different, but not from the outside. Beautiful, compassionate. You lizards really haven't made into the human race. Please, Major Clavis, sir. Get the bad guys? Isn't that our game? Well, dump me from the human race if you like. But I've done my job. I've done it well. It's just really bizarre. People don't generally talk that way, but it's got a beatnik sound to it. It's like I can't quite figure it out exactly. But I love it. It's really enjoyable. I really recommend the whole series. It's really strong, and in hindsight, it was a bit of a masterpiece. It just at the time was 1983, and Marvel had all these new, daring, comic creators that were doing new stuff. This one I didn't care for, the Goozle Bobber. It's basically this weird-looking clown alien story that, There is Pacific Comics initially published Gru the Wanderer, which ran for later on. It ran for 120 issues at Marvel, so that's exactly 10 years. The Missing Man, and there's Star Slayer, Mike Grell's Warlord, kind of reconfigured for a creator-owned book. So PC really was bringing in top talent, but they just couldn't maintain the costs. The Missing Man. I love all his characters. Ditko always said he wanted his characters to be identifiable if you just look at an arm or a leg. Like he did like the squiggly lines on Speedball, all this other stuff. I'll skip it. So here's more of that beatnik type commentary. Once again, a memory storage unit will activate a clone, and Captain Victory will live once again. A special man goes on, to be seen again and again, for he is the best part of ourselves, and that must live until it becomes all of what we are, and verifies that we are all special. So be sharp and listen, and look for the door, where the cosmos is waiting to show you much more. That's beautiful stuff. Really beautiful stuff. So, hang on. I gotta drink water. Giant Size Master Kung Fu. I completely ignored this book growing up because it wasn't superheroes, and also Kung Fu was so ubiquitous. It was everywhere, and I just saw it as like this dumb trend. And sure enough, it sort of became just a brief trend, not a dumb one. It's just that, and then this book lasted 120 some issues, based on the merit of the stories. Not to mention the murderer's row of fantastic artists. You start with Jim Starlin, then you go to Paul Gulacy, and then Mike Zeck, and Gene Day, etc., etc. For like years at a time. Gil Kane cover. Really gutsy to have his back to us. I mean, I know his little figure is there, but that helps you know what you're buying. But beautiful stuff. Gil Kane, of course. This is Doug Mensch and Paul Gulacy. They've been on the team for a while. What's amazing is they did years on the book, and Gulacy really put a ton of detail in there. Now, Vinny Coletta is in there, our old pal. Love him or hate him. However, when he gets stuck with somebody that does hyper-detailed pencils, he tends to stick with it. The only difference is that there's not as much bold line work as there would be if other inkers were doing it. Man, that's great. I love those kind of panels. It's totally insane. How about that? Really good stuff. I was hoping the Shang-Chi movie would have a little more of this attitude, and I did like the Shang-Chi movie, although it sort of was, the hero's journey, the same old, same old. I mean, the actor was great. I remember seeing him from the Canadian TV comedy called Kim's Convenience, which was really hilarious. So, well, yeah, he's Gulacy's deep into that Jim Steranko style, and it works wonders. Ooh, belt buckle. Now we get down to it, baby. And I said this before, what drove me nuts, and what kept me from writing this book was the overwriting. I don't mind the overwriting if you're making exclamation, or if there's a... I can overlook a lot of that. Sometimes I just skip it, but every panel that he's fighting in, he has to think of something. It's like in a variety of ways. It's just all this, a creaking sound from one pin to the wall. He was almost succeeding in wriggling blade from wood. I must stop him. Really cool stuff. There's what's the name? Somebody had a printing accident on Fu Manchu. This guy cracks me up. He's got a mace with a rod on on his head, and I'm like, if you turn around to look at somebody, wouldn't you like bash your own face in? So, anyway, this is a really fun series, really fun, and I only got into it because they did an epic collection of the first 20 issues. They did a second one, then they stopped, and then I ended up getting the omnibus later on. Now we go to fast forward a quarter century, I think. We got Orion by Walt Simonson. I mentioned before, New Gods. The follow-ups in the 70s and 80s were pretty shitty, and same with pretty much almost all of the Fourth World characters. But Orion, smartly, this wasn't called New Gods. It focused on the one everybody loves, is Orion. He's just a real super badass, and he puts his mighty Thor energy into this, and made me like the New Gods much more. I mean, each little bit. The stuff he did and the stuff John Byrne did really, I felt, added to the lore, which a lot of them didn't. A lot of other creators didn't. There's Darkseid. Whoops. Doing a zap thing. I mean, yeah, Simonson's so suited for this. Actually, Burns was pretty good, but I have to say Simonson's was the best. Tobacco is wacko. It is pretty wacko. I always loved Simonson's how he does fades, like kind of ziggy-zaggy, not like a clear fade that you would see on the underlighting of a muscular man's chest in the image books. There's Granny Goodness, who is anything but good. John Workman doing the lettering. How about the soldiers walking at the bottom there? And basically, Orion's like, hey, I'm taking over. And also, Walt introduced several female characters in the cast, which was pretty cool. There he is, Captain Marvel, the OG Captain Marvel. Mad Dog. Oop. Zoom. Yeah, it's beautiful. Backup by Jim Lee, who's actually trying to channel some of that Walt Simonson, especially that figure. And I love it. I love it. I wish he'd gone more in this direction. Jim Lee stuff at this point became really predictable. It was like too perfect, too clean, and the layouts were always kind of I think that's scrunched up shit on somebody like Darkseid. He just doesn't... Darkseid, whatever. Because it just doesn't seem right. But, good book, good series. Lasted 25 issues. There's an omnibus of it. Recommended. I'm going to get to this. And... The Submariner with guest starring the bashful, blue-eyed, ever-loving Thing. This has a real interesting origin. This actual copy that I have here, in the mid 90s or early 90s, there was it was some department store at a mall. Like, just, I don't know what it was. If it was a Sears or if it was something else. You know, my wife's shopping and I'm bored off my ass. I'm looking around, and then over on some corner with by itself was a package. It was like a package of 20 comics, and they had this. They had Amazing Adult Fantasy number 6 or something like that. but they were all reprints, and they were all good. It was all Marvel stuff, and it was only like $7. And I don't know if anybody else got these comics like this. It had this, and it also had Captain America 109, which had the origin issue with Stan and Jack and Sid Shores. But it was just, I don't know if it was, I guess it was an experiment, but I was the only one who benefited from it, I guess. And it just did reproduce the comics. Let's see if it says anything. Well, it's supposed to be 1968, but there was nothing else to say. Like, you know, if you were going to be an underhanded kid when it came to trading, you'd be like, oh, this is for 1968. I need like 4 or 5 of your books at least. So I know it sounds ridiculous, but I will have to find out more information on it. But I got all these great books, these reproductions. This was also in the Marvel Treasury Edition called Marvel's Greatest Superhero Battles, which really good collection. John Buscema kicking some ass. Dan Adkins on the inks, I think. Yeah. Solid. He's just great on everybody. See, but you have the modern ads. Kind of like what they do at the True Believers comics, but this came out in the 90s, and there's no real other evidence of it being from the 90s. So you got subscriptions. That is so great there. And I've said this a million times. I never liked Submariner as a solo character, but for me, it depended on the creative team who did the work on Submariner. This is a flashback. This is a flashback with Betty Dean, who was a cop, and she kept Namor from destroying New York City, whereas the Torch couldn't do it himself. I mean, check out the musculature. It's just, here comes the Thing. First time in my knowledge that he's drawn the Thing. There's that's a very, when John Buscema was doing the early Avengers issues, his early Avengers issues, they were really exceptional. Nice little smoke ring there. And he's really getting it down. I mean, the Thing, if you're a newcomer to superhero comics versus comics where at the time, how can I put it? The Thing is like possibly the most unique character in comics, because as we've seen, they haven't made a movie that has a satisfiable image of the Thing. He's like made for comics and almost nothing else. But who knows? Maybe the newest Fantastic Four won't screw things up. While I'm at it, I wish I get a lottery ticket that hits. Imperious Rex. Beautiful. Check it out. It tackles him. Goes through 3 floors. Spectacular. Spectacular. I said, man, give me a minute. I just became one of the walking wounded. Did anybody hear me? I said, we heard you. Now flake off. Me and Seaweed Sam has got some serious scrimmaging to do. Pops. Oh, what's the guy say? Gangway, let me out of here. Before them two total this crummy town and be with it. The follow through, the action, the choreography is like, top notch. It was weird. I just found his bag of books that were sealed, and they were all reprints. Like very just wild, random reprints. They weren't like the first appearance of Submariner, the first appearance of whatever. I don't know what they were trying, but it was kind of cool. It was in a department store. So anyway, really great stuff. It's like I said, I've never been huge on Submariner. And to me, it's always been dependent on the villains he fights, if they're more colorful. And when he got that blue suit in 1974, Then he became very visually interesting to me, and I know I'm probably in the minority because Submariner has been around since World War II, on and off. So, that's it for now. And enjoy your day. Hope you enjoyed the episode. If you like it, tell a friend. Please hit like. If you haven't subscribed already, please hit subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, and leave comments below. I welcome it. I would love to have a lot more comments. Although the comments I'm getting have been great, it's just, hey, it's like we're not here to do anything but enjoy comics and our fanboy fellowship. So everybody have a good day, okay?